This video, I'm going to show you the one thing you must do so that narcissistic and sociopathic people get their karma. I'm going to show you how to tip the scale in the other direction in this video, and by the end of it, you'll know exactly what to do. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make it so that the balancing forces when it comes to maybe a narcissistic person or a sociopathic person that you're around, how it starts to tip in a new direction. And I'm going to show you what you can actually do about that. Now, a couple weeks ago, I made a video on why narcissists and sociopaths don't get their karma, and that video did way more people were interested in that video than I ever thought imaginable. I knew it was more of a niche thing, but nonetheless it was something that I had experience with, which many of you may know from my ex-stepmom, who definitely had many of those different characteristics for sure. And I explained my personal story and some of the things I went through, and then what I noticed of what changed the energy. And what I thought I would do is make a whole video that's almost like the to-do and what you can do in order to tip the scales in a new direction. Now, just to clarify it, the reason that I say that sociopathic people and narcissistic people don't get their karma has to do with understanding the energy dynamics of what's going on. Because they are, in a way, having everyone else play according to their game, which is them doing what they want, them calling the shots, them making it all about them. Because they have that frame, many other people play into the frame, and it keeps the energy pattern going where they don't realize their own karma. However, like I was sharing with my ex-stepmom, it is mind-blowing how much she is actually able to get away with. When you look at her relationship with my dad, who, you know, just to give it a very quick summary, which if you've seen my other videos and you've heard this probably many times, but I had she was in my life between the ages of 7 to 15 years old, and in that time there was almost no control that my brother and I had. We weren't allowed to see our mom. My dad is a firefighter, so he wasn't home. He was, gone every other day for 24 hours, and then sometimes he'd be gone for a little bit longer if he'd pick up a shift. And we were left alone with her a lot. And in that time, there were many different freedoms that were taken away. Like my brother and I were not allowed to watch TV at all. We weren't allowed to have friends. We weren't allowed to go play. A lot of times we were locked outside and we had to do construction work because our house was being remodeled. And in the morning we were given a bowl of cereal with some milk, and at nighttime we were given a TV dinner. So we were both very malnourished, especially towards the end of that when I was like 13, 14 years old, because I was growing, yet I didn't really have that much food to eat. And then she was also very physically and mentally abusive. She'd get mad, had a temper, and she would she would do things. And also the interesting thing was she would want us, and she would kind of control things to where we would get the opposite of anything we wanted to do. So it was a lot of emotional manipulation. Like for example, if I wanted to go to a band camp tournament, I would get told that if I did want to go, that if you don't do this, 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 and this, then you're not able to go. And something else really dumb would come up to where I then wouldn't be able to go. It'd be like, well, you forgot to do this. Like take out the trash or something like that. It'd be something really dumb. And then it'd be like, oh, you can't go now, or you have to earn it. But if I were to go to her and say, I have this band camp tournament and I really don't want to go because I haven't been practicing, blah, 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 she would look and she'd say, oh, you're going to that. You think you're going to get out of that? You're going to that, So it was this weird thing where I had to like figure out, I almost in a way would like do the opposite, be like, I pretend not to want to go to a forensics debate tournament. And my brother and I, in a way, had to earn going to school activities, and that was our escape, which in a way made it so that I focused more on school, so there were different facets of it. But in general, my brother and I didn't have any freedom, and at 15 years old came around, all of a sudden, my dad divorces her, and then my brother and I are able to watch TV, we're able to have friends. We were both very socially awkward because we weren't able to have friends at all. We were just kind of in our own world. And then what happened is then we had all this freedom. At 15 years old came around. Now, to this day, I don't ever have to see her again. I don't ever have to talk to her again. However, my dad has two, so my half-sisters, which we had the same dad, different mom, that's their real mom. Now, she's already brainwashed one of them to be a certain way, kind of like she brainwashed my brother and I to not want anything to do with our real mom, and then after 15, my dad divorced her, that we have a relationship. But what happened is now my dad has to deal with her, and she does everything she can to make my dad's life a living hell. Everything. She will lie. They go to court about things, and she will lie and say the most crazy things of things that didn't even happen. And things that, my dad is the nicest guy ever. He's like too nice to where he ends up getting taken advantage of. He does things according to the book because he is a fire investigator, which means that he has this very strong sense of doing what's right. So he would never like lie, you know, even though she's lying, he would never really stand up and say something, you know, in a certain way, because he's about going about it the right way. But the energy dynamics there, it's like she gets away with so much. She makes my other sister, who that's her real mom, unfortunately. She's doing everything she can to get away from that, but it's hard for her because her mom is that manipulative, and that's kind of the way the courts work, is they believe, in this case, they're just believing what she says. And it's the most crazy. She's also a compulsive liar. She will lie about everything. And that goes into a part of being the narcissist or a sociopath. It's like lying to get what you want. It's all about me. Me, me, me. Now the thing is I remember where this thing that I'm sharing with you comes from, what the one thing you must do, is I remember one time my dad was going to some type of thing for one of my sisters. And it was, I don't remember if it was like a counseling session or something, but I know when he went, my ex-stepmom was just trying everything she could to get to my dad. Was just like, you know, yelling at him in public and saying all these things. And what my dad would normally do is then he would start to argue with her. He would say something and he would kind of feed into that. But this is the one thing you must do around narcissistic people and sociopathic people. And this is what made the change. And I told him to do this one day. I said, just go in, and when she's yelling at you and saying all these things to you, just have a blank stare. Don't even react. Completely ignore. Don't even give it attention. And this is what he did. He said that he went there. She started going off on him, blah, 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 in public while they were at some, like, I think it was like an office or something. I don't remember if it was like a therapist's office there or something they had to go to. But whatever it was, she was blah, 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 and he was just blank stare. And I think even he was just like this. And what happened is she did that for like a couple minutes, and then as he was not giving any reaction whatsoever, she just said something and left. Just said something and left, because when you're not getting reaction, you have nothing to feed on. And I actually learned about this idea and this concept from that of some type of study they did where they said that I forget what it was exactly, but they were doing some type of study where they were noticing that what was more nerve-wracking to people wasn't when somebody gives you negative, like imagine you're in an interview and this was the test. The test was like to see people's reaction and like how they felt and how they responded that people that were thinking they were getting interviewed. And the interviewer would have, there were like one of three different expressions. They would have like a happy expression, like really receptive, and then they'd have a reception where they were like really disapproving, like this, and then there was the reaction of no, like a blank stare, just no reaction whatsoever, just. And the thing is the people that were being interviewed by the person with the blank stare had much more of a negative response or a weird response than the people that had the negative effect. They had more cortisol because they did not know what was going on. It's like you almost don't have context. So I remember hearing that, and I told my dad that. I was like, just don't give it attention. Now the thing with narcissistic people and sociopathic people that keep their game going so that they don't get their karma is that everyone else is playing according to their game. They're in their frame. They're calling their shots. And therefore the energy dynamic hasn't been able to balance itself out yet. So when my dad, it's like we look at my ex-stepmom and it's just insane because it appears to be getting away with everything. She gets away with all of these crazy things, allegations that she makes that aren't true. She gets away with so many different things. And we're like, okay, she's going to get her karma, she's going to get her karma, she's going to get her karma. And it appears that it's not happening. Well, why isn't it happening? Well, the other thing is that people that are narcissistic or sociopathic, they normally don't feel shame. They normally feel like they're not doing anything wrong. They just have to manipulate reality to get it to be a certain way, you see? But it's because they have that lack of empathy. They don't know, like she doesn't know, like the things that she's done and said to my youngest sister, who that's her real mom, have just been, it's like, how can you even do something like that? Like one time she went through her phone and she was texting her friends to embarrass her. Like my sister got her phone taken away. So instead of just taking away a teenager's phone, she took away her teenager's phone and then texted her friends and embarrassed her and made her look dumb. You see, those are the kind of things that someone like that does. Now, what do you do in a situation like that? Well, unfortunately for my sister, the thing I've had to tell her to do is in a way to be able to observe it and to realize that her mom is just kind of lost. Not necessarily a judgmental way, but her mom is just in her own little belief structure, her own little control mechanism, and she's acting out as a full-grown bully. She's somebody that doesn't maybe feel good about herself, and she's literally being a bully to other people. So it's hard for a 14 or 15-year-old to have that level of awareness, but it's like a learning lesson. You know, in a certain way, when there's narcissistic and sociopathic people in our life, we did agree to them being around them for a period of time in our life. Doesn't mean always. That's why it's also about having boundaries. But when she was in my life for a period of time, I had to learn how to deal with it. I had to learn how to observe it. I had to learn how to let go of that part of my past. But part of this might be developing the boundary. The boundary to say, no, I'm not going to deal with that. Fortunately, my little sister, she has to deal with it. You know, depends on how much longer, but she, you know, until she's 18 years old, and she won't have to ever deal with it again. But until then, she has to deal with these weird energy dynamics. So the thing, though, that makes all the difference is stop playing according to their game. It means that you're a cameo in their movie and they're the villain. Instead, be the star of your own movie, then you gain your power to where then you can develop the boundary, you can say no, and you can go in the direction that you want. But you see, that's the thing, is the energy dynamics are out of whack because everyone is feeding into their reality, and attention is what gives them energy. I believe that when they're controlling things and people are giving them their attention, they're actually feeling powerful. You see, a narcissist or a sociopathic person feels like they don't have power. Therefore, if they can get you to pay attention to them, you can then give them energy, which then makes them feel powerful. But the key to this is you being within your own gravity, you being the star of your own movie, and drawing the boundary if you have to. But the only reason they haven't got their karma is because the energy dynamics are still playing itself out. If my dad, for example, were to stop playing according to her game and just to be in his own reality, because he has a certain story about it now. You know, I'm sure he's able to go to work and tell his friends about how crazy that some of the things that have happened have just been things that you would hardly see in movies. And it's like, wow, like, and he has a story about it, a story that's keeping that reality perpetuated. And if he were to change his story, he would then and realize that it's not happening to him, it's happening for him, to where he can maybe draw the boundary, to where he can maybe stand up. Because I see sometimes he's such a nice guy that she's able to take advantage of him because she's the one calling the shots and being so manipulative and such a compulsive liar. So you see, it's about understanding the energy dynamics. And is it showing you? What does it mean for you? Does it show you that you can stand up for yourself? Does it show you that you can draw your boundaries? Does it show you that you can be the star of your own movie? Because I think I may have shared this before as well. When I went through that experience up until 15, she was very controlling. And after 15, my dad divorced her. All of a sudden I have freedom. One of the first girlfriends that I had was somebody that was trying to control me, that was very jealous, that had a lot of this like negative emotion. And I dealt with that for years. And then when I was done with that, I got promoted to a department at Nordstrom's and Women's Shoes where the manager was almost the same personality as my ex-stepmom. There was always a manipulative person in my life until I cleared this pattern. I changed the story around it. I observed my thoughts around it. When you complete the past, you no longer have to repeat the past. But what is the story that you're telling around this? When you reframe the story, everything changes. You see, I believe that they do eventually get their karma, but the energy dynamics have to tip in the other way. At the very, very least, when every one of us dies, we have and experience what is called a life review. If you study thousands and thousands of NDE experiences, we have a life review. And what happens in a life review is you feel what you've made other people feel in your life. If you've generally been getting and either learning your lessons as you go, maybe if you learn your lessons, you don't have to feel as much the drawback of it. But if you're somebody that's so rigid, so controlling everyone, taking everyone's power, and a narcissist or a sociopath, then guess what? At the end of your life, you will feel what you made other people feel, and you will experience that. And then you will be able to say, do I want to make people feel like that? So at the very least, at the end of life, when we have life reviews, these people will get their karma, but that's not our job to focus on. Our job is to focus on how are the energy dynamics within us. Are we played according to their frame, or are we in our own frame of reality? Are we the star of our own movie? Are we focused on making everything about them? If that's the case, then we are keeping that energy dynamic into place. And what we can begin to do is change that energy dynamic by first off changing ourselves. Changing ourselves. A lot of people that are taking advantage of a narcissistic or sociopathic relationships where someone's a sociopath towards them are people that are very nice people. People that get taken advantage of, that have a lack of boundaries. And the key is to become aware of that and then decide that you're going to develop your own level of boundaries. You're going to develop your own gravity, which may mean saying no, which may mean ignoring completely. So if you give them something to hook in on, they will feed on it, and they will come up with some crazy type of way of getting in with that. But if you don't give them anything to hook in onto, they can't do anything. So this is about being aware of that energy dynamic. The one thing you must do in order for that narcissist or that sociopathic person to get their karma is you must realize that it's not about playing according to their game and playing according to their frame. You must be in your own frame, in your own reality, the star of your own movie, and you must at the same time let go of trying to make sure they get their karma. Let go of the story you have about who they are, the story about everything you've been through, the story about all of these different attachments you might have to that identity, that story that keeps your certain, you almost might get an emotional charge from it. Talk about it. Yeah, she did this and this, I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. But until that story is let go of, it will continue to play itself out because they're just playing according to the role. Now, one of the most powerful things for this process as well is that of a process called Ho'oponopono, which is a process that is a Hawaiian ancient technique, but it has to do with 4 simple statements, which I'll explain in the video below. But you do this process, and as you change your image of this narcissistic or this sociopathic person, you may find that as you change your image of them and the way that you relate to them within yourself, you may find that either they fall away out of your life, they no longer vibrationally resonate, or they start to change within themselves. This starts to bear the question, what is reality other than a reflection of what we believe it to be? What happened was in Ho'oponopono, the experiments that were done with that, there was a doctor that would just focus on patients that were in an insane asylum, who would focus on their profiles, on their stories, on their files, and he would heal what that was showing him on the inside. He would look at these people, see them as whole, complete, and healed, and change a story about them, and then they would begin to heal in real life. So as he changed his image of them, as he saw them as healed, they would then begin to change to where they didn't have to be there anymore. He did that with over 50 people at this place, and it works. And it's an ancient technique, and it's something that I made a meditation about that you can just listen to while you're in your car, listen to while you're doing things. And what it does is it begins to change your energetic field. It begins to complete the patterns of the past. It's something that's very powerful that you can listen to. And it's going to be in the top of the description box below. It's called Ho'oponopono. It's extraordinarily powerful. Listen to it for 21 days and watch how you start to change, how you can change your image of how you relate to them, and how that changes everything in your life. So for this process, remember that what you can begin to do is change your own reality by being the star of your own movie. Realize that anything that's happened to you from them is a story, and what you can begin to do is let go of it. Draw the boundary, but let go of it to become free, so that then you can be yourself, be in your ideal reality, which may include them not being around or them transforming themselves if they want to be around you, because you have boundaries now. So like this video if you liked it. If you want me to make more videos on this kind of concept, I know talking about narcissists and sociopaths isn't something I always talk about, but because I've had experience with it, I feel like, I could share my experience with it. And people ask me sometimes too in the spiritual community, because when you're focused on, when you're a real good person, you want to help other people, your service to others, the people that are service to self may be able to try to grab energy from those people. So I see it a lot in the spiritual community of people dealing with that kind of people. So like this video if you want me to make more. Like this, comment below, and let me know what you thought of this vid. I'd love to see, and then maybe I'll do more like it. So with that being said, I hope you like this vid, and as always, peace, much love, and namaste.